All right, Revelation chapter 11. Start with verse 1, and I am going to read just the first two verses. We'll stop there, and then we'll go jump into 3 after that. So here we go. Really, if we get past the first 2, I'll be excited.
Yeah, little thing.
And there was given me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple, leave out, and measure it not. For it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, let me help you out here. We're going to start out in Luke, and hold on there. Let me get to Luke. I've got them in these little. Have these little things put down there. So, if you would go to Luke 21 through 24. 21 through 24. And Debbie, if you would, I know I said 20, but if you would just start in verse 20 and read, and this is the words of Christ speaking here. Read Luke 20 through 24, but the emphasis is going to be on verse 24.
Chapter 21, 20 through 24.
Yeah.
And when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then you will know that the time of its destruction has arrived. Then those in Judea must flee to the hills. Those in Jerusalem must get out, and those out in the country should not return to the city, for those will be days of God's vengeance, and the prophetic word of the scriptures will be fulfilled. How terrible it would be for the pregnant woman and for the nursing mothers in those days, for there will be disaster in the land and great anger against his people. They will be killed by the sword or sent away as captives to all the nations of the world. And Jerusalem will be trampled down by the Gentiles until the period of the Gentiles comes to an end.
Wow, what prophecy that is.
Right.
Wouldn't want to be in Jerusalem then, would you? Not I. All right, hold on there. I know we got to let me jump over here and try to get where you're at, guys.
I like your markers.
Oh yeah, I had to throw something up there.
I like your markers. Where are we going?
Daniel chapter 7, and then Daniel chapter 9, and Daniel chapter 12. But let me get to 7 first. Daniel chapter 7, verse, what?
25.
I tell you what,
Excuse me.
do 23, 24, and 25.
Okay. Thus he saith, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall rise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until the time and times and the dividing of times.
So now you see here, I'll mention this and we'll go on real quickly. But you see here when I'm reading over there and I say the 10 horns represent 10 kings or 10 nations, and you wonder, how in the world does he know that? Well, you just got to go back in Daniel and read it. Right there it tells you these 10 horns are 10 kings. See, so it doesn't tell you that in every place in the Bible, and it doesn't tell you the times in every place in the Bible. But if you just search around a little bit, you'll find it. Now, how do you search around a little bit? You've got to start in Genesis and read it to Revelation.
That's right.
I mean, you really got to. You really got to start. So it's okay. I mean, it's okay. I know a friend of mine who's decided he wanted to start in Revelation. He'd read maybe one book of the Bible, and he said he wanted to learn Revelations. And I tried to discourage him, but I said, go ahead. And so when he got in Revelations, he said, I didn't understand one thing about that book. And I thought, well, I understand that, because to know Revelations, you've got to know where to look. And of course, Daniel's a very good place to look. Daniel chapter 9. Let me find it here. Hold on, let me get with you, Jimmy. I'm jumping around here like everybody else. I got my markers to take out, markers to put in. 9, what is it?
27.
Go ahead, 9:27.
And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until there comes consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. That's King James.
Is it?
Is 27 the last verse in chapter 9?
Yes.
It is.
All right, I want to read it out of this version here. Very good job, Jimmy. The ruler will make a treaty with the people for a period of 1 set of 7. Sounds like he's going to make a treaty with some people. What people do you think he's going to make a treaty with? What nation?
Well, it ain't us.
Think about that for a little bit. What nation will we be making a treaty with? If someone says Israel, I won't be mad at you.
There's a golden doe in that picture.
Hey, it's up there. And it'll be for a set of 7. It'll be for a time. But after half this time, so half of 7 is what?
3.5.
3.5. So after 3.5 years, yeah, you got it, see? Half of 3.5. He will put an end to the sacrifice and offerings. He'll put an end to the sacrifice and offerings. Got that? And at the climax to all this terrible deeds, he will set up a sacrilegious object that causes desecration until the fate decreed by this defiler is finally poured out on him. What in the world would that be? What would this, we're going to get to that. I'm not going to tell you today, but what would this sacrilegious object that causes desecration, what in the world would that be? See, what's going on? All right. We're 12:11, right? Is that you, Adam, 12:11? Daniel. Yeah, I'm sorry. Daniel chapter 12, verse 11. I'm sorry.
Just verse 1,
So fire away now?
is this all still related to verse 1?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just trying to,
You see why I didn't know that we could get to verse 3 tonight. You see, there's just so much. There is so much.
I'm so sorry, Sharon. Yeah.
When you start,
I've got it as condensed down as small as I can.
Okay.
but when you start backing up the Word of God with the Word of God, I mean, it really is. It's the whole book. All right. Where are we at now? Chapter 12 in Daniel?
Yeah, chapter 12, verse 11. You can do verse 11, 12, 13, but do verse 11.
And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days.
Anybody got math? How many days is in 3.5 years? Anybody figure that out? 3.5 years is how many days? Now, a while ago we said half of 7. Jimmy said half of 7 was 3.5. We said the abomination that caused desecration. We call that. Well, here it says, from the time the daily sacrifices stopped, we learned a little earlier that the daily sacrifices we stopped, and the sacrilegious object that causes desecration. I believe it says abomination of desecration. Is that he called it abomination of desecration? Is set up to be destroyed. There will be 1,290 days. Anybody can figure out how many years is 1,290 days?
Take a wild guess.
How many do you think it is, Jimmy?
I think on that's 365 in a year, so it's 365 and we say 1,000 and what?
1,000. Just say 3.5, Jimmy. You get it right every
There
time.
you go.
Jimmy gets right. Okay. So how many years is going to be the tribulation period? 7. Say 7 years. So there's going to be a treaty set up for the first 3.5 years, and that treaty is going to be with Israel. And after that treaty, is set up, then that treaty is going to be broken. Who sets up the treaty? Oh, Satan himself. He's going to be in control of it. But we're going to call it the Antichrist. The Antichrist is going to set up this treaty with Israel, and things are going to go pretty smooth as far as Israel is concerned after 3.5 years. Israel will literally rebuild a temple in Jerusalem and reinstitute the daily sacrifices like they had in the Old Testament. After Israel builds the temple, the Antichrist will turn on Israel and attack Israel. The Antichrist will set up his headquarters in the brand new temple in Jerusalem. His throne room will be in the Holy of Holies, and he will declare himself to be God. What's the abomination of desecration? What?
I jumped to Thessalonians. I was already ready for you.
Go ahead, fire away.
Are we not going to Thessalonians?
Yes, go ahead. You can go there. You can go there. What is the abomination of desecration that Adam talked about? It's the Antichrist is going to set himself up as God in the Holy of Holies in the temple. So there, it explains. It takes us a while to get to it. So again, we're going to be as a church, we're going to be in heaven. But there's things going on down here on the earth, and down here on the earth, Israel's going to build a temple. They're going to institute the daily sacrifices. They're going to make a peace treaty with the Antichrist. Now they're not going to know he's the Antichrist. They're not saying that they're going to, he's going to fool them. He's going to pull the wool over their eyes. He's going to make a peace treaty with the Antichrist, and for 3.5 years, this thing is going to go along good until he comes to the temple with his forces, stops the daily sacrifice, goes into the Holy of Holies, and sets himself up there as God. Well, then Israel's going to know then, wait a minute, this guy is the Antichrist. They're going to know then, this guy's, he's the adversary, not the adversary, he's Satan's emissary, whatever you call that. I missed that word. He's Satan's man. And then it says, this guy's going to have to flee. And it tells about beware of the women that are with child at that time and all that kind of stuff, because we're going to find out he's after him. And what's Satan's plan? He's got 3 plans. What are the 3 things Satan's plan to do?
One of them's kill.
Kill, steal, and destroy. That's what he's going to do. That's his plan for Israel. His plan for Israel is to kill, steal, and destroy. Okay, Pastor, you have got us a picture up here. I don't know. Is that going with verse 3 or is?
Oh yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. It's just there. Trying to give people some hints. You asked where this was at and who we were setting treaties up with and stuff. You got to put a little something up there. Now this is just one of many.
Oh, I like it.
I'm gonna have to run back and forth.
Where's Chip at when you need him?
Hold on. 7:32. 7:32. There, I gotta be Chip at the same time. 7:32. I don't have a sign like he has. Anyways,
I'll let you go.
so
Don't go past verse 2 over now.
no, I won't. So something that I think that we need to make sure that we see here in chapter 11, verse 1, is that he's given a rod to measure the temple.
Yes.
That you can't measure something that's not built. You understand? This is something that's
Very good,
that's
yeah.
built.
Yes, very good.
So we got to see that this new temple is going to be built. There's signs that were given of the end times. One of them is this third temple that's coming that is not yet built. But if you guys recall last year, some of the news items I gave you was I showed you where they had all the different things that go inside the temple built and ready to go. Where they have even parts of the temple pre-manufactured, like a modular home. All they had to do was bring it in cranes and set it up and put it together. They got the red heifer sitting out there ready to go. They're steadily trying to find that perfect red heifer so that they can have the ashes of the perfect red heifer ready to go. And they got the red heifer farm, and they're inspecting them almost daily. And they're within maybe one calf away from having it perfect if it's not already done. I haven't looked at it in a couple months, so they might have found one. So there's all kinds of signs of the end times, things that we'll see. Now, could the temple be set up before the rapture of the church? Could the temple come after the rapture of the church? Is the temple built before we leave or after we leave? It really doesn't matter. But yes, is the answer really to both of those. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. You understand? So some of these things are signs, whereas other things are precursors. Like, when will the Antichrist come, before or after the rapture of the church? Well, it's after. The Antichrist, he can't show himself on the scene until we're gone. You see, there's
Can I speak?
oh, jump in there.
What I want, and this is very important. Just a few years ago, we were taught that the temple had to be built before the rapture of the church because it would take 2 or 3 years to build this temple.
Right.
But nowadays, we have found out that they can put something up in 60 days, 90 days. So the teaching of the church has changed. The temple doesn't have to be built before the rapture.
Right.
Now, if you was in this same book and this same teaching 30 years ago, they would say the rapture can't take place now because the temple hadn't been built yet, and it's going to take 4 or 5 years to build this temple.
The technology wasn't there.
The technology wasn't there. Thank you very much.
And as Daniel tells us that the end times, that technology, knowledge, these things will increase ever so rapidly. Daniel tells us that, so that as we're rapidly increasing in our knowledge, we're also rapidly increasing in our biblical knowledge and our biblical understanding, but also in technology and travel and all those things, as Daniel tells us will happen. And so, yeah, now we have it to where this stuff can be set up quick.
In a couple of weeks, the building can be put up.
And I mean, he only needs 3.5 years, the first 3.5, to get it set up. So that, I mean, to be able to stop the daily sacrifice means the sacrifice has to be happening, right? These are the reasons that people looked at that and said, oh, the temple has to be built. The sacrifice has to be going on. The red heifer has to be found. And until then, we really don't need to worry about the rapture of the church. Well, now we know, yeah, we do.
Yep.
Yeah, we do. We need to know, we need to be ready now.
The rapture could take place tonight.
That's right. And the temple could be built, by May.
That's right.
I mean, really, if they're given permission, there's a lot of things that have to happen. As you see, there's a gold dome on a temple back there that's not the temple. So, anyhow,
Who's got a gold dome? Who's gold dome? Come on, guys. What do we call it? A mosque? You know what we call it?
I thought you were talking about West Virginia, that Capitol building over here in West Virginia.
A mosque. A mosque is not the temple.
No.
A mosque is what? It's a Muslim place, isn't it?
It is. It would be a Muslim temple if we call it that, but we're not talking. We're talking about the Jewish synagogue,
That's
the
right.
Jewish temple.
So
the place.
something is there already. It's not what we're looking for. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go
No,
ahead.
you're good. So he tells them the significance of this, because he only really gives us 2 verses here, and then all of a sudden he just goes away from this.
Yeah.
We really only have 2 verses, and it almost seems out of place. We come out of chapter 10, and then all of a sudden there's a boom, 2 verses about a temple, and then we jump into the 2 witnesses. So I want you to see there's great significance in these 2 verses, letting us know there is going to be a temple built. The Antichrist will be able to step into this thing because it's going to be on the scene in the right time, in the right place. All this is just future foretelling. And of course, Dad already took you over there to where the red letters were, where Christ said that the Gentiles are going to trample it underfoot. It's already happening. But there's, how do I say this? We're Gentiles, but we're not children of the world. You understand? We're children of God. We're not Jews. We're not God's chosen people, Israel, but we're children of God. So you got to make sure when you're reading these things, you're a heathen technically in the Bible, but no, you're saved. You're a child of the King. So you got to make sure when you're reading about the Gentiles are going to trample it underfoot, who we're talking about here. We're talking about saved people, unsaved people. It's obviously not the Jewish people. It's those that are non-Jewish, but there are saved people, there are unsaved people. There's folks that have been raptured out, the church, and there's the people of the world that would be Gentiles that are non-Jewish. Right? It's just trying to put all the pieces together. We just got to make sure we get it all, if that makes sense. All right. Anything else with 1 and 2?
So I'm just going. Then I was given a measuring stick, and I was told, "Go and measure the temple of God and the altar, and count the number of worshipers, but do not measure the outer courtyard, for it's been turned over to the nations. They will trample the holy city for 42 months." How long is 42 months, Jimmy?
14 months.
Say 3.5 years. Say 3.5.
Yeah, that's right.
3.5. Jimmy's got the answers. 3.5. 1,260 days. 3.5. A half of 7. 3.5. 42 months. 3.5.
Right.
See, it comes at you all kinds of different places and all kinds of different ways, but just listening to Jimmy over there is 3.5. You got it. 42 months is 3.5 years. 1,260 days is 3.5 years. Half of 7 years is 3.5 years. It's 3.5. So you might have to go all through the Bible to find it, and it might say it all kinds of different ways, but it's still 3.5. So see what I'm saying? So you guys got the first 2 verses. Got it. Anybody ask you what those first 2 verses are? You can say Israel's going to build a temple. They're going to start the daily sacrifice, after 3.5 years, the Antichrist is going to set himself up in the Holy of Holies as God, and it's going to be the abomination of desecration. And people will say, "You got that out of those 2 verses?" Yes, I did, because it's there. Pastor.
Just changing things around. So you can, since we're going into verse 3, I assume I miss you, Chip. I need you, Chip. I hope you're saving lives out there, buddy. All right.
Yeah, he is. All right.
I'm sure he is.
Are you in verse 3 or?
Yeah, I'm ready for verse 3. Ready for verse 3.
Verse 3. So you got all that. That's how old Jim up here gets all that, and that's how you got it all. So you got the answer. All right. We're going to go with verse 3.
Gosh. Oh, verse 3, Revelation chapter 11 says, "And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth." Let me just say, "These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the God of the earth." All right, go ahead.
I'll get that to you.
Yeah, well, let's do verse 3, but I want to get,
Yeah. So how many days did he say? 3.5. Say 3.5 years, Jimmy. All right.
Just wanted me to say 3.5.
That's it. He's got it. He knows.
I want to run over here because I've got this marked and I haven't got it in my thing. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 22 says, "Just as everyone dies, because we all belong to Adam." Remember, the Bible tells us just everyone dies, the Bible says. Unless you're taken in the rapture.
You're funny, right?
If you don't go in the rapture,
Where you at with that? Where you at? 1 Corinthians 15? Is that?
it's all over it now. I just thought I'd throw
I
it.
mean, I'm
1
just-
Corinthians chapter 15, verse 22.
I was just asking.
Just as everyone dies because we all belong to Adam. Everyone dies, guy. All right. I'm going to run to Genesis. Hold on there. Let me get these guys started. All right. Sherry, you're going to be Genesis 5, 21 through 24. Let me get to that for get ahead of me. Debbie.
Yes.
2 Kings chapter 2, 11 through 12. Mary. Malachi 4 and 5. Jimmy. Matthew 17, 11.
17:11.
We're gonna run this thing here.
You got Jude anywhere near this list?
No, but you can throw Jude in there.
Okay. Well,
I couldn't put them all.
well, I mean, Jude backs up, a little bit of your.
You want fire?
No.
Well, I get you fire over here.
No.
I've got you reading Zechariah chapter 4 of the whole thing.
Yay.
All right, Sherry. Now we're gonna read verse 3 one more time.
Me on verse 3.
Yeah, read verse 3 so we get Sherry.
Keep all my finger places here.
All right.
Verse 3 says, "And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth."
Everybody dies. We read that. What's the 2 witnesses? Sherry, run over there, Genesis chapter 5, 21 through 24.
Okay, does it matter what version I have?
No, doesn't matter. You got the Way. If you got the Way Bible, that'd be perfect.
Well, I brought Life Application Study Bible, New International.
New International, great. New International, good version.
When Enoch had lived 65 years, he became the father of Methuselah. After he became the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked faithfully with God 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enoch lived a total of 365 years. Enoch walked faithfully with God, then he was no more because God took him away.
Then he was no more because God took him away. Now here's a trivia question. The trivia question says, who was the oldest person that lived on this earth? Methuselah. Then the trivia question is, how was Methuselah the oldest person who lived on this earth but died before his father did?
His father was taken up.
His father was taken up, thank you, Mary. Did not see death. Enoch was a friend of God. And he was such a good friend of God, God just took him home and said, come on up here and stay with me. did not see death. All right.
Almost like a rapture.
Almost like a rapture. Almost like he got raptured out. Where were we going from here? Genesis now. Where was the next one?
Did it say God took him? Did yours say God took him?
No, it just said, then he was no more,
No
because God
more.
took him away.
Because God took him away.
Took him away.
God took him. He didn't ask him. He didn't.
He said he walked with Enoch and talked with Enoch, and they had some good conversations. And God said, well, just come on up here and talk with me. Why should I have to come down here and talk with you? 2 Kings chapter 2. Is that where we're at?
Yes, 11 and 12.
11 and 12.
As they were walking along and talking, suddenly a chariot of fire appeared, drawn by horses of fire. It drove between the two men, separating them, and Elijah was carried by a whirlwind into heaven. Elisha saw it and cried out, my father, I see the chariots and the charioteers of Israel. And as they disappeared from sight, Elisha tore his clothes in distress.
Now, how did Elijah go to heaven?
Chariot of fire.
In a chariot of fire. He didn't die either. Elijah went. Is the Bible wrong? Does everybody die? Of course the Bible's not wrong. We've got to know the Bible. Malachi. Who is in Malachi?
Me.
Let me get over there. I've got to keep going to get to Malachi. Come on, I'm in front. Hold on there. Let me go. I'm not even close.
That's enough.
Is that Malachi? Where you at? That's Matthew.
He went too far.
Malachi, chapter 4, verse 5.
Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
What's this Malachi say? That God says, I'm going to send you Elijah done went up in a chariot of fire. He done went up to deal with it. But already the Malachi, the last book of the Old Testament, what's God say? I'm going to send you, O Elijah, before the great and dreadful day of the Lord comes. Who's one of these witnesses? Jimmy, where'd I have you at?
17:11 of Matthew.
Matthew 17:11. Let me get there.
Okay.
All right, fire away, Jimmy.
And Jesus answered and said unto them, Elias truly shall first come and restore all things.
Elijah. So it's prophesied in Malachi. Jesus himself tells it. So is there any doubt, we'll read on here, that Enoch and Elijah, who never died, are the two witnesses that are going to be in Revelation? And I got down, and you guys will have to check me on this, because I've been taught this all my life, but I don't know that I can prove it, but that Enoch was a Gentile and Elijah was a Jew or an Israelite. I've been taught that one was a Gentile and one was I'm going to tell that. I don't know that that's true, but he's got them dressed up there differently.
They do look like two different guys in this picture, don't they?
They sure do. They look like one's dressed one way and one's dressed another. So these two, so people read this. Now let me just throw this at you here real quick. People read this and they say, well, the Bible's not telling the truth because it says everybody's got to die except those taken in the rapture. These two guys didn't die. Well, maybe they do die. They ain't died yet. Maybe they will die. We'll read on over there in Revelations and we'll find out that the two witnesses, they're going to die, you know. But they come back from heaven and then they go back to heaven. Wow. Sort of like a rapture.
Sort of.
All right, where are we at? Do we have time for one more verse?
I believe we do.
Now, do you want to make, because I know you're not in total disagreement with me about all this stuff, but we are about Elijah,
Well,
right?
I was waiting to see if there was going to be any comments about it.
Somebody say Moses out there.
I did.
Oh!
Moses is a great candidate. Why would we say Moses? Any clues in the Bible that would make us think that Moses was one of the two?
That's what my Bible said.
That's what your Bible said.
Is this has something to do with the Mount of Transfiguration? Say yes.
Yes.
It has something to do with the Mount of Transfiguration, but yeah.
So you guys.
What's that all about?
Right. Remember, Jesus went up on the mountain and he took just three of his disciples with him, just a few. And Moses and Elijah came and encouraged Jesus, and talked with Jesus. And then Jesus came down all bright and shiny. It's Mount of Transfiguration, right? That's what we call it. There was a representation. What could Moses have represented? What could Elijah have represented? Same thing they could represent if they were the two witnesses in the book of Revelation, I imagine.
Yeah.
What is there, it'd be real strange though, because if, let's just throw this out there. If the thing is that it's appointed every man to die and then the judgment, or that people are going to die over here in 1 Corinthians 15, whatever it was, did Moses already die? Has Moses already died? So then if we know anything about the two witnesses eventually, they get killed and they lay in the street for a few days. So he'd have to die twice. Well, that kind of seems like that would not work out a little bit there. But then again, there was this guy named Lazarus.
Let's talk a little bit about Moses now. Who buried Moses? Why Moses? Who buried Moses?
Who did bury Moses?
Huh? God buried Moses.
Wow. Hit him.
Who contended for Moses' body?
Satan. Somebody say Satan.
Yeah. And who did he fight against? The Archangel Michael. Yeah. So there's a lot about Moses. So I'm not going to be mad at you if you say Moses and Elijah. I'm not going to be mad at you at all. But I think I've got better proof that it's Enoch, because Enoch didn't die and Moses did die and God buried Moses and nobody knows where.
Could be.
Isn't that something?
Could be.
That's a great story about Moses. You know, we talk about what Moses did, but what about this part of Moses? Did you know that Satan contended for Moses' body?
It's important.
Wow. Why is that? Another story. Go ahead. I'm sure you have one other person.
But just real quick, there have been several people. Jesus raised people from the dead. People came back to life. Some of the Old Testament prophets, raised people back from the dead. They came back to life. So they died. They were raised to life again. They died again. So, I mean, there's several, what does he call this, exceptions to the rule or anomalies to what is said. We're all, every man's going to die. But then there's this thing called the rapture, where we won't all die, but we will be changed. So we are passing from death to life. So there is that, we're just not putting the ground. So there's a lot here when we go with this. Yeah. Anybody have another name besides Moses?
I was thinking Abraham.
Abraham's a great name. That's a great name. Why would Abraham be important? Why would we want to throw him in there?
He's father of many nations.
He was the father of many nations. He could, if Elijah represented the Jews, Abraham could maybe represent, the Gentile side or the world side as the father of many nations, though that wouldn't necessarily be on the right path, but that is true. What else could Abraham represent? Anything else? There was this covenant thing going on, and there was this, he was the father of the son of the promise, and there's
Ishmael and
there was two sides going on there.
two sides,
two sons, and they were split off. Ishmael and Isaac, right? There's all kinds of things about Abraham.
That's right.
But again, we fall into that same category with Moses that we do with Abraham, in the sense that Abraham already lived and died and was buried, right? It makes more sense that these two guys that have never died would come back and live and die a public life and be resurrected as one last witness to the world. I mean, really, what are they going to say about the church when the church is gone? I've already heard aliens. Like, seriously, I've already heard the alien theology being pushed right now today. That when the church leaves out of here, it was aliens. Aliens took us because we couldn't, adapt to the whole, recycle and green energy and, all the stuff that the earth needs to be, cherished and all that jazz. And so we got to be, kind of reprogrammed. And aliens come and help do that for us. And they're going to bring us back later. I mean, it goes right along. I mean, really, I'm serious. Anybody hear about the aliens that apparently the president and the government released on YouTube and confirmed and said, yeah, there was some odd stuff out there. You heard about this stuff?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just saying, it just feeds right along into that. But that's not true, but that's already one. It's already one story that's being swirled up real good right about now, just in case something happens to us. So it'd be good that maybe a couple guys come back and lay in the street, and the whole world watches them, and then they get raptured up out of here. I'm just saying, we ain't got those verses yet, but I'm just saying, there's no denial of what's going on because every eye is going to be on them. Moving on. All right.
So it says, and I gave power to my.
Let me just clarify. I'm in full agreement that it's Enoch and Elijah. I don't think it's anybody but those two. It could be Mr. Jones and Mr. Smith, but I'm just saying. I'm in full agreement it's Enoch and Elijah, but I could see the argument for the others. I mean, they're really good arguments. Go ahead.
It says, and I will give, this is verse 3, and I will give power to my 2 witnesses, and they will be clothed in burlap, and will prophesy during the 1,260 days. I've heard people say that because they were clothed in burlap, one of them was John the Baptist.
Oh, boy.
Because he was dressed kind of, you know, in clothes like that. So, but it's really not important who the 2 witnesses are. That the 2 witnesses are sent. But if someone asks you who the 2 witnesses are, you can say, well, probably Enoch and Elijah. And you'd say, well, why would it be those 2? Well, they never died. And they went to heaven. And besides that, we have Elijah being prophesied 3 times in the Bible that he's the one. So,
hold on. Sorry, Enoch. Sorry,
Go
Enoch.
ahead,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Okay, hold on. Jude, chapter 1, verse 14. And Enoch also, the 7th from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, behold, Enoch prophesied, behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. Sound like the end times to me, buddy. That's a bunch of ungodliness going on. Yeah. And Enoch prophesied that a long time ago, before he was taken out of here.
you think Enoch knew something about it?
Think he might.
Yeah, I think he might know something about it.
Yeah, and there's Jude telling us right before,
Yeah.
the end times. So
Before the end time.
it is interesting. Just saying. They're both there as far as, Elijah was prophesied to return, but Enoch prophesied about what was going to happen in the end times, and he knew a lot about it.
Yeah.
And he was so close with God that God went ahead and took him. It really does. It falls right in line. But again, as you said, that's not necessarily important.
Yeah.
It could be, I heard one guy said, it could be Bob and Larry. Who cares? Just, it's 2 witnesses, and they're going to have power. And we're not going to be here.
But we're going to find out that the power they have, we're going to find out that Elijah already had that power.
Right?
So, again, it's going to be Elijah and Enoch. See, it really is going to be. And so this is how we know why, because we go back and read the Word of God, and we know why. And you're going to find when you read it, you say, well, what kind of power these guys got? You'll see what kind of power they have. And you'll see in the Bible where they've already used that power previous to this time. Wow. You say, wow. Man, that pretty well cements it in there. That's, and of course it does for me. But again, I don't want you to get caught up. Someone says, oh, it's Moses and Abraham. Don't get in no argument with them. But it's Elijah and Enoch.
I would say 100% it's Elijah. And for me, I would give it a 90% it's Enoch.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have to do an awful lot to convince me it wasn't. But, I'm not going to argue with you. You know what I'm saying? Really. Hey, could be. I'll say could be. I assume we're going to read all of Zechariah chapter 4 to do the next verse.
Yeah.
So,
You want to read Zechariah chapter 4 in this thing?
No.
Zechariah chapter 4 has got to be read, guys.
Yeah.
Next week, we're going to be in chapter 4 and
verse 4 of Revelation.
we're going to be in verse 4 of Revelation. So I want you to read Zechariah chapter 4.
That'd be good.
Well, you could read a whole book of Zechariah, but read Zechariah chapter 4. Now, next week, I'll just tell you real quick here before we end this thing. Next week, we're going to be, if we get to chapter 4, if we get to verse 4 and 5, we get to verse 4 and 5, we're going to be in Zechariah chapter 4, 1 Kings chapter 18, 2 Kings chapter 1. When do we get over to James? So James must be in verse 6. That may be in verse 6, but we're also going to be in James chapter...
He's down the line.
Down the line. We're going to talk about these guys.
The entirety of the Bible.
And that's what I say. So, to back up what is being said here, people say, well, I don't understand Revelations. Don't get caught up in that. We'll help you along. Come to class. If you don't make class, get to YouTube and listen to YouTube. We'll give you the scriptures that will help you understand Revelations because it's there. God wants us to read the Bible, and I guess God could just tell us like that, but then we wouldn't read the Bible. God wants us to read the Bible, understand His Word, and to understand His Word, we have to read the Bible. We have to read the Bible.
It's almost like they go hand in hand.
It has to. We got to do it. So, and it's there for us. And you'll get a lot of guys will do Revelations in one session. You know, and I'm thinking, well, okay, I can't do that. It's taken me a year to get to chapter 11.
Even before we turn this off, any questions that you have
Oh, yeah.
about tonight, so that we can answer them on video, just in case somebody else had that same question.
Yeah, it's good as you have, because if you have a question, then someone will on the video will see it and hear it. And now remember, like, share,
Subscribe.
subscribe.